Welcome back to Elevated Outdoors. I'm your host, Quentin. First and foremost, I want to personally thank my brother Brandon for giving us his perspective and a little insight into what we've read so far in the book of Genesis. I also want to let everybody know we recently realized that commenting was turned off, and we've made changes to that. So if you're watching, feel free to drop a comment and let us know what you like or what we can do a little bit differently. Also, I wanna hear what the weather's like in your area that you're dealing with. Yesterday, it was quite convenient that my brother decided to make a video and share that with us. I hadn't asked him to do that, but I am very glad that he chose to, because we had quite the storm come through yesterday and I wasn't able to get outside, and the little bit I was outside I had to deal with some trees that had come down and things like that. So all's well, no major damage, just my time was taken up doing some other things. So I'm glad that we were able to get you a video with the help of my brother. So with that, I wanted to continue in our journey through Genesis. We left off at chapter 16, and this is Hagar and Ishmael. So we just heard of a little bit about Abram and how him and his nephew Lot, they separated ways, and then a few chapters later, Abram went back and rescued Lot when he found himself in a little bit of trouble with some wars that were going on there. And we heard God's covenant with Abram. And so now we're on to chapter 16, Hagar and Ishmael. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian maidservant named Hagar. So she said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my maidservant. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abram agreed to what Sarai said. So Abram had been living in Canaan. So after Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian maidservant Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. He slept with Hagar, and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, "Are you responsible for the wrong I am suffering? I put my servant in your arms, and now she knows she is pregnant. She despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me." "Your servant is in your hands," Abram said. "Do with her whatever you think best." Then Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was a spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" "I'm running away from my mistress Sarai," she answered. Then the angel of the Lord told her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her." The angel added, I will so increase your descendants that they will become too numerous to count." The angel of the Lord also said to her, "You are now with child, and you will have a son. You should name him Ishmael. For the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And he will live in hostility towards all of his brothers." She gave the name to the Lord who spoke to her, "Are you the God who sees me?" For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." That is why the wall was called Bir Lahai-roi. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. I apologize for the wind. Hopefully it's not affecting the audio too much. Chapter 17, A Covenant of Circumcision. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, "I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. I will confirm my covenant between me and you, and will greatly increase your numbers." Abram fell face down, and God said to him, "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you, for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. The whole land of Canaan, where you are now an alien, I will give you an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God." Then God said to Abraham, "As for you, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, for the generations to come. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be the sign of covenant between me and you." We're gonna blow away! So you are to undergo circumcision, and it will be a sign of covenant between me and you. For the generations to come, every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born in your household or brought with money from a foreigner. Those who are not your offspring, whether born in your household or brought with money, they must be circumcised. My covenant in your flesh is to be an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. God also said to Abraham, "As for Sarai, your wife, you are to no longer call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her." Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, "Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear the child at the age of 90? And Abraham said to God, "If only Ishmael might live under your blessing." Then God said, "Yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his numbers. He will be a father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you by this time next year." When he had finished speaking with Abraham, God went up from him. On that very day, Abraham took his son Ishmael and all those born in his household or bought with his money, every male in his household, and circumcised them, as God told him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised. I'm glad that they do that in the hospital before the babies know what's going on. And his son Ishmael was 13. Abraham and his son Ishmael were both circumcised on that same day. And every male in Abraham's household, including those born in his household or bought from a foreigner, was circumcised with him. Chapter 18, the three visitors. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre, where he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abraham looked up and saw three men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. He said, "If I had found favor in your eyes, my Lord, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat, so you can be refreshed, and then go on your way, now that you have come to your servant." "Very well," they answered. "Do as you say." So Abraham hurried to the tent to Sarah. "Quick," he said, "get 3 seahs of fine flour and knead it and bake some bread." Then he ran to the herd and selected a choice tender calf and gave it to a servant, who hurried to prepare it. And then he brought some curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared, and set these before them. While they ate, he stood near them under a tree. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "There in the tent," he said. Then the Lord said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already old and well advanced in years, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself, as she thought, "After I'm worn out and my master is old, will I now have this pleasure?" Then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child, now that I am old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, "I did not laugh." But he said, "Yes, you did laugh." Like my brother Brandon touched on yesterday, God knows all, sees all. He oftentimes asks questions to give us the opportunity to confess, or in this case, to lie. That's basically what Sarah just did there. So, moving forward, Abraham pleads for Sodom. When the men got up to leave, they looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him, so that he will direct his children and his household after him, to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Then the Lord said, The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, that their sins so grievous, that I will go down and see what they have done. I'll go down, see if what they may have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham approached him and said, Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? The Lord said, If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. So that's pretty deep. When questioned, and not as much, I don't know if it's as much questioned as, or challenged, or but Abraham asked him if he found 50 righteous people, and among all the wicked people, were you going to, kill the righteous with the wicked, and treat the righteous and wicked alike? And the Lord said, If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. So that's very eye-opening, and kind of paints a picture, because when we look at society around us, we know that everybody doesn't have good intentions, unfortunately. People have different circumstances and reasonings for their behavior. Not that some of the wicked behavior is justified. I'm not necessarily saying that. My brother had a squirrel visit him yesterday, and I had a chipmunk run up this tree. That's kind of cool. Another reason to get out in nature. But back to what I was saying, God oversees everything that's happening, and people that live a life that's more in line with the teachings of the Bible are going to live a more fruitful life, whereas those who are wicked and sin and don't abide by the 10 Commandments that we'll learn later, and just aren't wholesome people, they oftentimes will have a much more challenging life. But everybody is, given a time, of length of time for their life. If it was my time to go, I'm a firm believer that if God felt that it was my time to go, that I wouldn't be here anymore on this earth. I feel that despite some of the poor decisions that the wicked in the world create, that this here explains that, you know, they're being spared for those of us who try to live more righteous and wholesome lives. That may not be, you know, obviously that's my opinion, my take on that, and it may be different from yours. That's fine. It's, you know, everyone has an opinion. That's kind of how I understand that part of that message. So he says, again, he says, the Lord says, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Then Abraham spoke up again. Now that I have been so bold to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city because of 5 people? If I find 45 people there, he said, I will not destroy it. Once again he spoke to him. What if only 40 are found there? He said, for the sake of 40, I will not do it. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there? He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. Abram said, now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there? He said, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there? He answered, for the sake of the 10, I will not destroy it. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abram, he left, and Abram returned home. So, that goes on to say that there's not a number in God's mind for good versus evil, so to speak. I'm a firm believer that even if he found one person in Sodom who was a what do they call it? Let me see. One righteous person in Sodom, that he would spare the wicked, because that one person gives hope that there can be change, and there can be growth, and just like what we're doing here on this channel, we're spreading the word, right? So, and we're helping others to hear the word of God. And I hope and pray that someday someone who watches these videos may grow and become a child of God and accept Jesus Christ into their heart, so that they may live eternal life. We're going to go on to chapter 19, Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. The 2 angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face on the ground. "My lords," he said, "please turn aside to your servant's house so that I can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way in the morning." "No," they answered, "we will spend the night in the square." But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out so that we can have sex with them." Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, "No, my friend, do not this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection they've come under the protection of my roof." "Get out of our way," they replied. And they said, This fellow came here as an alien, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them." They kept bringing pressure on Lot, and they moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so they could not find the door. The 2 men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else in here? Son-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy the place." The outcry to the Lord against the people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-laws, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-laws thought he was joking. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city. For the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives, don't look back, and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared." He said to him, "Very well, I will grant you this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." That is why the town was called Zor. It says in quotations. By the time Lot reached Zor, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, including all those living in the cities. He also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain. He saw dense smoke rising from the land, like the smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. We're going to go on. I guess this is still chapter 19, but it's Lot and his daughters. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. One day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to lie with us, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine, and then lie with him and preserve our family line through our father." That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and lay with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I lay with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go lie with him so we can preserve our family. Preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father drunk. They got their father drunk. They got their father to drink wine that night. And the younger daughter went and lay with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. We're going to go on to chapter 20. Abraham and, how do we pronounce this? Abimelech. Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abram said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not gone near her. So he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And didn't she also say, 'He is my brother'? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in a dream, "Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man to his wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all yours will die." Early the next morning, Abimelech summoned all his officials, and when he told them that what had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should not have been done." And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, "I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, through not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God had me wander from my father's household, I said to her, 'This is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother.' Then Abimelech brought sheep and cattle, and male and female slaves, and gave them to Abraham. And he returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, 'My land is before you. Live wherever you like.' To Sarah he said, 'I am giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated.' Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his slave girls, so they could have children again. For the Lord has closed up every womb in Abimelech's household because of Abram's wife Sarah." So that's a lot to unpack. There's been a little bit of incest happen there, which I'm not sure how that plays into the Bible. Obviously it happened. I know that's something that's frowned upon, obviously. So here, like I said before, this is a learning Bible. It says, "How could Lot's daughter justify incest with their father?" Apparently Lot's daughters had themselves been affected by their culture so that their consciences were not bothered by what they proposed. With all that they knew destroyed and little hope for the future, they felt compelled to have children, which is considered the primary role for a woman by many in that culture, to preserve their father's name and to support themselves in old age. So, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, obviously our worldly views are that's wrong. I wonder how the Lord will react to that, or if they ever go into detail about that. So we see again that Abraham called Sarah, or Sarai from earlier, that he's his sister. She's his sister instead of his wife, much like she did to Pharaoh, so to spare him from being killed and whatnot. So that's a reoccurring thing that I want to make note of, just to see how that plays out moving forward. But I want to leave you there with Genesis chapter 20. We'll pick up on chapter 21 tomorrow, which is the birth of Isaac. We've been told that Sarah would have a son, and we're going to learn more of that in tomorrow's reading. I want to give a little bit of insight, or not insight, but I want to let you know that today was a little bit challenging for me at work, and I could have very easily let a bad 15 minutes, and it was more than that, but say bad half hour, turn into a bad day. But instead I put on some music, a mix of a little bit of country, a little bit of I have some worship music in my playlist, and listen to some music that kind of grounded me a little bit and allowed me to continue my day with a clear head. Sometimes we gotta do that. Sometimes we have to dig deep, and the easier thing to do would have been to let that ruin my day. It'd been easier in the moment, but not necessarily, I guess not easier, but it's more typical, for me at least, to sometimes let a bad 15 minutes or a bad half hour affect my whole day, instead of finding a coping mechanism to reverse that. So I want you guys to remember that you may not be in control of, you may not be able to control everything that happens to you, but you are in 100% control of how you react to it. And when although sometimes it's easier to get frustrated and let them feelings of frustration compound and become a much worse situation, there are ways to pull yourself out of that. And I honestly think that before starting this journey through the Bible and really working on myself and trying to become the best version of myself, I may not have had the same reaction, and I may have become irritated and frustrated and brought that home from work to my wife and children, who obviously don't deserve that. So remember, you may not be in control of what happens to you, but you are in control of how you react to it. And until tomorrow, I want you guys to get outside, enjoy nature. I know it might be a little bit muggy where you are. I know the last couple days have been pretty muggy here, with a lot of rain and humidity and temps in the mid to upper 80s. So I would like you to subscribe and comment. Feel free to share. And we're up to 8 subscribers. I know that doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot, but that's 8 people that are joining us on this journey, even if they don't watch every video. Any little bit of the Bible that you can read or learn from is a step in the right direction. So until tomorrow, stay elevated.